There is a lot of really bad weight loss information on the internet, a lot of which is very questionable, like the cabbage soup diet. Now, this was something that was popular years ago when I first got into this business. And one of my clients recently told me that she heard about the cabbage soup diet and all the success of it, and she was considering trying it. And this diet I thought was crazy when it first became popular years ago. Or you have things like these diet pills, which have very little evidence that they even do anything. But there are some ways that can help you naturally lose weight that are backed by science. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. I'm going to be covering 5 ways that you can naturally lose weight that are backed by science. And the first way is to limit your consumption of processed food. So I don't know anyone that does not eat processed food, and most likely you don't know anyone either. However, cutting back on the amount of processed food you eat, and you notice I didn't say eliminate, although eliminating would be good, but just by cutting back on the amount of processed food you eat, it can drastically help you lose weight, and vice versa. By not cutting back on the amount of processed food you eat, it can lead to unwanted weight gain, which if you're eating processed food and you're watching this video, you're probably experiencing. So one of the things you want to remember about processed food is they are created to make you overconsume them. They are created to make you eat as much of them as you possibly can, because from the food industry's perspective, the more of them you eat, the better of a customer you are. The more money you spend on them, the more money you make for their companies. Matter of fact, in a 2021 study of 9,000 British children, it was found that the children that ate the processed food had higher waist circumferences, higher body mass index, higher fat mass, and higher weight. And in another study in 2019, researchers were looking to see if ultra-processed food would lead people to eating more. So what they did was they had their subjects have 2 weeks of eating ultra-processed food and 2 weeks of not eating ultra-processed food. And during these 2-week periods, they allowed their subjects to eat as much as they want. They had no limits and no restrictions on how much they could eat. But what they found was that during the 2 weeks where they were eating the ultra-processed foods, they ate more calories than during the weeks where they weren't eating the ultra-processed foods. Now, this is just 2 studies of many that prove how processed foods lead to unwanted weight gain. So the obvious thing to do here is to either limit how much processed foods you eat or completely eliminate them from your diet. But the question is, how do you do it? I mean, with processed foods being everywhere and them being in almost everything that we eat, is it really possible to limit processed foods from our diet? And the answer is yes. And the first thing you want to do to start eliminating or limiting how much processed foods you eat is make sure you have healthy snacks ready to go. Oftentimes when we're in a rush and we're not prepared is when it becomes really easy to reach for a package of processed garbage. However, as actor Will Smith says, if you stay ready, you ain't never got to get ready. So keeping your kitchen stocked with healthy, nutritious snacks is the key to making sure that you are ready to go to eat healthy when you're on the go. So some of the things that I recommend my clients keep on hand are things like fresh fruit, cut up veggies, hummus, edamame, or one of my favorites, which is making your own trail mix. Make it, Ziploc it up, and you are good to go. Now, when you've got more time, you can do things like hard-boiled eggs, make your own kale chips, or even overnight oats. So now that you've got your healthy snacks covered, you're good to go there. The next thing you can do is swap out a lot of your refined grains with whole grains. Now, even if you don't know what refined grains are, I can almost bet that you're probably eating them like most of us. But refined grains are grains that are not whole because they're missing one or more of their key components. And one of the easiest ways for you to start to reduce how much processed food you're eating is by saying no to refined grains and saying yes to whole grains. So some of the switches you can make are things like getting rid of your white bread and white pasta to whole grain bread and whole grain pasta. And not only will eating more whole grains help you lose weight faster because they're packed with vitamins, nutrients, and fiber, but they've also been shown to protect against diseases like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. The second thing you can do to naturally lose weight is drink more water. Did you know that drinking as little as 17 ounces of water can help speed up your metabolism by 30%? Now, this starts to happen around 10 minutes after you drink it, but its peak is about 30 to 40 minutes. And drinking more water can be one of the simplest things that you can do to lose weight naturally. Now, people will oftentimes mistake signs of thirst with signs of hunger. And there was a study at Virginia Tech University that took people and they had them drink 2 cups of water prior to a meal. And they found that when they drank the water before the meal, they lost up to 5 pounds more than when they didn't drink the water before the meal. Who wouldn't want to lose an extra 5 pounds by doing something as simple as just drinking water? But I know some of you right now are rolling your eyes because you hate drinking water. And I don't necessarily love drinking water either. I know for some of you, just the thought of drinking more water makes you want to throw up. So here's 2 things that you can do to make drinking more water easier. Tip number 1 is to start with sparkling water or flavored water. Now, the goal here is to eventually work your way to drinking just plain water, but on your route to getting there, doing things like sparkling water or adding flavor to your water can definitely help. Now, tip number 2 to drinking more water is infusing your water. Try adding things like fresh fruit or herbs to your water to make drinking more water more enjoyable. Now, the third thing on my list of the 5 ways that you can naturally lose weight is to start meal prepping. Now, if you went on Instagram or TikTok or anywhere and you asked the people with the best physiques what they ate today, they would be able to tell you exactly what they ate down to the macro, the micronutrients, the calories, the carbs, the fat, the protein. They would be able to tell you everything that they ate. And that's because they meal prep. And over my 30 plus years as a personal trainer and coach, it is the absolute hardest thing to get my clients to do is to meal prep and to track. However, the ones that do it are always the most successful. But how exactly do you make meal prepping easier? Because as they say, if it were easy, everybody would do it. So here are my 4 tips to make meal prepping easier. And hey guys, before we continue, my name is Coach William, and if you're new here, I want to welcome you, but if you've been here before, welcome back. Hey, if you need help on your personal journey, you need help reaching your fitness goals, no hard sell, but I've been working with people over the last 30 plus years using tips just like the ones in this video to help them get into absolutely amazing shape, and I'd love to work with you. So click the first link below in the description, fill out the form, and let's figure out what we need to do together to get you into absolutely amazing shape. So tip number 1 is to start small. So if you've never meal prepped before, or it's been a really long time since you've done it, one of the worst things you can do is try to meal prep your entire week in one shot. Just don't do it. It is an absolute bad idea. Developing the habit of meal prepping is just like any other habit, and the easier you can make the habit, the more likely it is to stick. And the easiest way to make meal prepping stick is to start small. Start by planning out just a few meals and a few snacks per week. And as you progress, eventually you'll be able to add in more and more meals to where you are able to prep your whole week in one shot, if that's what you want to do. Tip number 2 is to get your space organized. An unorganized kitchen, pantry, or refrigerator can make meal prepping so much harder. However, on the flip side, having an organized space can make meal prepping so much more motivating because you'll know where everything is at, you'll know what you have, and you'll be able to get meal prepping done without any issues. Now, there is no right or wrong way to organize your space. You just need to make sure that however you organize your space, it works for you. Now, tip number 3 is to make sure that you get some good quality storage containers. Now, if you're anything like me or any number of my clients, then you've probably got this one cabinet in your kitchen that has all your Tupperware in it, and I hate opening it because it takes forever to find a matching container and a lid. And what I hate even more than that is when I open that cabinet and everything falls out because it's so full with Tupperware. If you can relate to that, if I'm not the only one, if you can relate to that, comment below and let me know. So if you have no containers and you need to purchase your first set, or you need to purchase all new containers, you want to make sure one thing that you take into consideration is the use of each container. For instance, if you're going to be freezing your prep, or if you're going to be microwaving your food in these containers, or if you're going to be washing these containers in the dishwasher, you want to make sure that they are meant for those things. And tip number 4 is to make sure that you never grocery shop when you're hungry. Going to the grocery store when you're hungry can be a recipe for disaster because you're more likely to buy things that you don't want and you definitely don't need. Or maybe you do want the crap. Maybe you don't, maybe you do, but it's just not a good idea to go grocery shopping when you're hungry. So what I recommend my clients do is to make sure they have either a small meal or a snack to hold them over while they're grocery shopping so they can eat a sensible meal or a healthier meal when they get home. And don't be one of those people that goes to the grocery store, spends all this money on all this healthy food just to stop through the drive-thru on the way home. And don't act like you ain't never done that before. I ain't the only one. Now, the 4th thing you can do to lose weight naturally is to eat more vegetables. Now, there's a few reasons why vegetables tend to be weight loss friendly. One of them is the fiber content. So the more fiber a food has, the more full it's going to make you feel. The second is the water content of most vegetables. Most vegetables are pretty high in water, and these two, the fiber and the water, go together because the more water you drink and the more fiber you intake, the fuller you're going to feel. Now, although all vegetables are pretty good, some are better than others, and here are my 5 favorite vegetables for weight loss. Number 1 is Brussels sprouts. Number 2 is cauliflower. Number 3 is sweet potatoes. Number 4 is spinach. And number 5 is broccoli. Now, I've got a question for you. Can you remember the first thing that I said in this video that you should do to lose weight naturally? Well, if you don't remember, the first thing I said you should do to lose weight naturally is limit your processed food. But I realized that I left out one category of processed foods that is a must if you want to lose weight naturally and faster. And that one thing is processed meats. So one of the keys to losing weight naturally is to make sure that you're eating as much real food as possible. So this is why it's so important to get rid of these foods like lunch meat, like hot dogs, like sausage, deli meats, because these foods make up such a big part of most of our diets. And these meats have even been linked to chronic diseases like high blood pressure, heart disease, COPD, and even cancers. So what are some of the ways that you can begin to cut back on processed meats in your diet? So the first thing you can do is start to swap out some of these processed foods for things like tuna, things like hard-boiled eggs. You can do things like hummus, peanut butter, or even some cooked leftovers. And also consider things like fresh fish, grilled chicken, and hard-boiled eggs. And the second thing you can do is try to get creative on how you flavor and season your foods, because you probably already know that just by flavoring, seasoning, and playing around with these types of things in your foods can completely change a dish. And look, I know a lot of times we eat these processed foods because it's just easier. We're all busy. We got things to do. So it's so much easier just to eat these processed foods. But I also know that we make time for the things that we really want to do. So if you want to lose weight, you want to do it naturally, and you want to do it quickly, you'll stop making excuses and you'll do the things on this list, because I guarantee you, if you do them, you will lose weight quicker than you've been losing it. And guys, if you like this video, make sure you comment below and let me know what you liked about it. Let me know if you have any questions about these tips or any future tips, any future videos that you want to see on these topics: health, fitness, weight loss, all of that. Comment below. And again, there's no hard sell, but if you need help on your journey reaching your fitness goals, click the first link below in the description, fill out the form, and together we will figure out what we need to do to get you from where you're at to where you want to be.